Sorry, just waiting to begin. I usually get a prompt that says recording in progress.
Yes, did that happen? I have something on my screen saying pause, stop recording. Did you all get
Okay.
notified?
No, I do not see that, but if all of you are seeing it, then we'll proceed. All right, so again, thank you all for being here this morning to learn about, as Kate said, this brand new internal award. And on the top left is a QR code that will take you to the Office of Sponsored Programs Internal Awards page, where you can find the flyer that was sent out by email with the detailed program guidelines, the link to the application submittal site, and also information about the proposal review committee. Okay, so, oops. All right, so this is our plan for this morning. We'll walk you through the purpose of this brand new program. We'll talk about the eligibility requirements that fall into three buckets: project eligibility, student eligibility, and then the eligibility of the faculty mentors. We'll walk you through the application components, and then Kate will do a brief demonstration of the website where you will actually upload your application components. We'll walk you through our anticipated timeline, and then we're happy to answer questions. And if a question occurs to you, and you want to make sure you don't forget, put it in the chat, right? And we can keep a running log of questions that way. Okay, so. All right, so as Kate mentioned, this is a new program. Faculty on the call may remember that we previously had a funding mechanism called Student Faculty Scholarship, or SFS. And that program was limited to undergraduates. And so in revising our internal awards program, we wanted to broaden this to support our master's and doctoral students. And in revising this particular mechanism, we wanted it to be what I'm going to refer to as student-led and student-owned. All right, so let's talk about student-led first. So the purpose of this program is to support substantial and original student-led projects. All right, so here's what I mean by substantial and original. All right, so you, the student, have been intellectually involved in the project's conception or its design. All right, now it's okay if the kernel of this project, came from your faculty mentor. It's something that was derived from their larger scholarly agenda. But what we want to see is that you, the student, have taken ownership of it and have made contributions to how this project will be carried out. Okay, so you, the student, will take the lead in implementing this project. All right, so more than just, you are research support or an extra pair of hands with data gathering, right? So this is your work. And you, the student, will continue to be actively involved, intellectually involved in preparing and disseminating the results. And that means different things in different disciplines. That could mean conference presentations, exhibitions, performances, publications. But whatever the appropriate venue is for sharing this work, right, we expect that you, the student, will be actively involved in that. Okay, so let's talk about project eligibility. All right, and let me preface this by again reminding you it's new. I'm really excited about this, but I recognize as something brand new, there are probably many, many, many what-if scenarios that I have not anticipated and could not possibly anticipate. All right, and so as questions arise, we'll take them as they come. And I encourage you always reach out to Kate and myself and ask us questions, right, when those what-if scenarios arise. Okay, so in designing this program, again, thinking about substantial original student-led activities, we were thinking about thesis and dissertation projects at both the undergraduate and graduate level. So that could be a senior thesis, an honors thesis, a master's, a doctoral dissertation, or a culminating applied project or other capstone activity, as defined by your discipline. So there's a time lag with my computer. All right, so what the program does not support. All right, so we do not support course-based activities and in-class projects that were designed by the professor. All right, so if you are teaching a class and you have a regularly recurring project that has the same parameters from one year to the next, it's a simulation. You provide, canned data, right? That's not appropriate for this program. All right, similarly, and this is for the faculty mentors on the call, this program will not support projects that are supported by the university's instructional budgets. And if you have questions about that, again, please reach out to me. All right, now having said that, we have received some questions by email reminding us that when you sign up for a thesis or an independent study or a capstone, you're signing up for a course code. Okay, that's okay. Right, so if you're signing up for an independent study, that will do an original project. You're signing up for your thesis credits, right? That's okay. Okay, we do not support team projects. Right, so again, coming back to substantial, original, student-led, right? So at this moment in time, again, first year we're doing this, we're accepting applications from individuals only. There may come a time when we evolve and we figure out a mechanism for team-based projects, but not in this inaugural year. Okay, we absolutely do not support activities where your goal is to produce items for sale or for personal profit. Okay, so let me give an example. If you were thinking of applying to this program to develop an idea that will then go to a pitch competition, right? That's out, right? So no profit generated from these activities. And we don't support routine administrative tasks. So we will not support hiring someone to do the word processing or the indexing. And this program does not support publication fees. Okay, now again, faculty on this call, will think back to our prior internal awards program. We have other mechanisms that are under development, under negotiation. And as much as we would love to talk about all those ideas in development and what may be coming next, I can't do so until it works its way through our university processes. Okay? And so we absolutely will have additional internal awards, right? We have new things that we're really anxious to roll out, and we will announce those as soon as our process and circumstances allow. Okay, and again, always ask if you're uncertain, if your project is eligible, or if your particular idea or circumstances or situation are eligible. All right, and I'm going to recommend that if you have something that's very specific to your case, that today's webinar is not the best venue to talk about that. Let's set up separate time to go through your individual cases, and let's focus questions today on things that are broadly applicable to everyone on the call. Okay, so applicant eligibility. So this is for the students on the call. Okay, so again, I'm going to keep harking back to our definition and purpose of the program, substantial, original, student-led projects. So undergraduates must have successfully completed at least 60 credits when you apply. All right, so juniors and seniors. Okay, and the reason for that, right? We want to make sure that you are prepared to engage in this level of project, that you've had sufficient background preparation through your coursework, and that you have identified and connected with a faculty mentor. Okay, so in our professional view, freshmen are not yet at that level where you have sufficient background preparation, where you have sufficient connections with faculty, right, to design your own project and implement it. All right, so if we do have freshmen and sophomores on the call, I'm happy you're here, and I want to see your applications a couple of years from now when you hit that 60 credit threshold. All right, graduate students must have successfully completed at least 9 credits in their degree programs. All right, again, for the same reason, we want to make sure you are prepared to engage in your project activities and that you've connected with a faculty mentor. Okay, all applicants must be in academic good standing according to the university's policies. So for undergraduates, that means your cumulative GPA is a 2.0 or higher. And for graduate students, the university defines good standing as a GPA of 3.0 or higher. Now, let me stress, I will not see your GPA. Kate will not see it. Nobody's going to see your GPA or your transcript. That's your personal information. We're asking the faculty mentors, and they do have access to this information, to certify this in their part of the application. All right, so faculty on the call, in your part of the process, you're going to be asked to check 3 boxes. One of them says, I verify, right, my student has completed 60 credits. I verify my student is in academic good standing. Okay, so again, no one will see your private information. Okay. All right, and just a note, looking ahead, if your project is selected for an award, okay, the award lasts for 1 or 2 years or until you depart the university, right? Whichever is shorter. When you graduate, when you depart the university, that is the conclusion of the project. Okay, so unused balances are not transferable to other students. Okay, university liability policies and procedures, we are not allowed to give money if you're no longer affiliated with this university. Okay, so let's talk about faculty mentor eligibility. All right, mentors must be full-time tenured or tenure track faculty at either the Montclair or the Bloomfield campus. Okay, and so again, our rationale for that is, these people, right, are the individuals who are, experienced researchers and scholars. They are the ones who have a mandate in their job description to conduct research, scholarship, and creative activities and involve students in their research and scholarly agendas. Okay, so mentors. As I alluded to a moment ago, your part of the application will also require 3 attestations on your part. All right, so you're going to certify your advisee's eligibility and good standing. Okay, we are asking you to provide a letter of reference for your advisee, and we're asking you to also give us your condensed CV, so 2 pages maximum. Okay, and the third checkbox will ask you, do you agree to serve as a liaison for internal university processes? And what we mean by that, your student will identify materials or supplies or project-related travel, right, that Kate, right, and her group will then process. But we need to follow regular university procurement practices, right, which means we have to verify in Workday that you have received these materials, right? And so we're going to ask for your help coaching your students. Open the box, make sure everything is there, and then communicate to Kate, okay, yes, it's okay to verify everything's been received. If your project involves salary to your student, hourly salary, right, then we're going to ask you to verify the hours that your student has entered on their time card. If they said they worked 15 hours this week, Kate or one of her colleagues will be reaching out to you to say, please verify these hours, right? So that's what we need you to please help us with. Okay, so let's move on then to the application components. Okay, and so everyone, the very first date you need to have emblazoned in your mind is Tuesday, June 25th. Okay, say it to yourself over and over again. It's Tuesday, June 25th. Right, so I guess this is not applicable, but when I was teaching, my bad, my bad sort of, aunt mom joke was, when you're hunting for a parking spot, driving around in circles, say it to yourself over and over again so it burns in your brain. So that first piece, right, and this will be done by you, the student applicants, You'll be logging into our web-based system named InfoReady, right? And Kate's going to do a demonstration of that. There'll be a series of questions with your name, right? Your degree program, who is your faculty mentor. And so those very basic pieces are what comprise the cover sheet. All right, and then we're asking you to, actually, we're not asking, right? We're instructing you, this is a requirement, to combine all of your pieces into one file, right? So your fellow students comprise the committee that will be reading these applications. So please be kind to your fellow students, right? And make sure they have everything they need all in one easy to. Okay, so there'll be a project narrative. That's where you're going to describe what you're doing, how you are doing it, and why it's important. Okay, why does this project need to be done? Okay, that's a 5-page limit. Okay, and so in your word processing program, they all have something called insert page break. Okay, so you're going to insert a break and you're going to move on to a fresh page, and that's where you put your references cited. Okay, and that's a 1-page limit. And we've already had a couple of questions about like how firm are these limits? Okay, very, 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 very firm. Okay, so part of engaging in the proposal process, right, is learning to comply with the funding agency's requirements, learning to communicate your ideas and your work in a targeted, concise manner, right? So these are very, very, very firm. And in the references cited, work with your mentor. You'll need to figure out what's the right balance between background information to get the reader up to speed. So how many references do you need to cite? Which ones are the key references to include without going over one page? And how much space do you need to save for yourself to describe your own new exciting work? Right, students, we're also asking you for your resume. All right, in academia, we call it the curriculum vitae, the CV or biographical sketch, and that's also limited to 2 pages. And then we are providing you a template to use for your budget and what we call the budget narrative. Okay, so the difference between those two components, the budget, right, is an Excel table, right? So that's the numbers. That's where we want to see the dollars. And in the budget narrative, that's where you tell us what those numbers are for, right? So how much money are we spending on salary and why, right? What are your tasks, right, for which you're earning that salary? What are the materials and supplies you need? So explain to us, if you have $1,000 allocated to materials and supplies, what are you going to be purchasing and how is that relevant to this project? If you're traveling, right, where are you going? What's the purpose of that travel? Again, connect it back to the project activities so that we understand what your budget request is for, right? And again, it's your fellow students, right, who are going to be evaluating this and asking themselves, does the budget make sense given what I just read in your narrative? Okay. All right, and again, a reminder, okay, here on the bottom right, okay, you must follow our guidelines. Okay, again, be kind to your fellow students who are going to be reading these, right? Make it really easy for them to focus on the work, to focus on the project and be excited by the project and not get distracted and annoyed because you use 9-point font and they can't read what you're saying. And yes, that has happened. Okay, faculty on the line, your piece is due June 30th. Okay, and yes, I know it's a Sunday. Okay, but we wanted to give you sort of to the very, 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 very end of fiscal year 24, right, to do your piece. All right, and faculty similarly, okay, your pieces must be combined into one single PDF file. Right, so that includes your letter of support and then your short version of your CV. And the mentor attestations, right? So those will be check boxes inside InfoReady. Okay, so let's come back now to the budget and what you may and may not use these funds for. Okay, and in the Office of Research, right, we model our practices on state and federal practices. Okay, so we're not pulling things out of thin air, right? We're following, and I always invert the word, so Kate can correct me. The Office of Budget and Management, or is it Management and Budget? OBM?
OMB, Management
OMB,
Budget.
Office. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're following federal and state guidelines. Okay, so allowable costs, and this is not all inclusive, right? So I'm going to show you some examples. And here again, if there's any questions, please reach out to Kate and I. All right, so student salary is allowed up to a maximum of $2,000 for the project period. All right, travel is allowed. Okay, materials and supplies. If you're offering incentives for people to participate in your project, that's fine. Services and fees. You may need to hire a consultant. You may need access to supercomputing. Oops. Shoot. Where did we go? You may be conducting interviews and then you need to get those interviews transcribed. All right, so all of that is fine. So generally, faculty, if it's allowed on an external grant, it's allowed here. Okay, but we also have some unallowable costs. Okay, and some of these you will notice, these now are specific to the Office of Research and how we want to invest university funds. We will not fund computers or laptops. Okay, those last substantially longer than the duration of a 1-year or even a 2-year project. Right, so use of computers, right, should make use of the university's, right, computer labs. We do not fund capital equipment, right? So that's defined as a single piece of equipment or a system of connected components where the cost exceeds $5,000. Okay, so this program will not fund analytical instrumentation, for example. We will not fund catering. We will not fund stipends for anyone who's employed at the university. Okay, we don't do honoraria, tuition. We will not fund mentor travel expenses. Okay, student travel, yes. Okay, mentor, no, right? So there are other mechanisms at the university for that purpose. Right, and then subawards. Actually, I'm going to ask Kate to sort of summarize what that means.
Yeah, and in the Office of Sponsored Programs, when we talk about a subaward, it's when you have a collaborator at another institution, typically another university, but it could be a nonprofit or whatnot. And so a subaward puts our two universities or two institutions into a relationship with one another, so we can then pass money on to that other person. So in this, the student awards here, those will not be allowed.
All right, so as you look at the list of what is allowed and what is not, all of that is geared towards, we want the maximum amount of money going directly to the students in support of their project. Okay, and again, if you have any questions about what is or is not allowed in your specific project, just reach out to us, right? I don't have a life, I'm always here, right? You'll see emails from me at 1 a.m. All right, now a few notes. If you are including salary in your budget, all right, neither Kate or I has any control over how salary works here. We have to follow human resources rules. All right, so we'll encourage you to go to human resources compensation guidelines. And these will contain the most up-to-date information, for example, on hourly wages in minimum wage in the state of New Jersey, which you can use as a guideline. And then also, maximum amounts that are reasonable and appropriate for undergraduate and graduate and doctoral students. If you are a grad student and you will be supported by a graduate assistantship, either a master's level GA or a DA for doctoral students, the graduate school has rules that we must follow regarding additional compensation over and above your assistantship. And what that might mean in practice is that if you want to use salary from an RSCA grant, then you'll have to use it as summer salary. Okay, so the I don't want to speak too overly broad, but in my experience, typically we cannot supplement assistantship stipends. Okay, so if you want summer salary, that's fine. Okay, if you're proposing academic year salary on top of an assistantship, right, then I will need to seek permission from the graduate school, and I'm 99.999% sure the answer is going to be no, that's not allowed. Okay, but again, ask if you have any questions. Okay, and
Stephanie,
so, yep.
I'm sorry, can I just add before you, were you going to advance to the next slide?
No, I was going to go to the text on the bottom right.
Oh. Well, let me just add, for salary, well, for all of this, make it very clear that we still are all at Montclair State University, and we have to follow the rules of the various offices of Montclair State University. So just as salary, we look to HR. For other expenses like travel, for instance. If you're wondering, oh, would it be allowable for me to take a train to this place or what? There is a travel policy at the university, that we would have to follow. So if you have any other questions about that, let us know. But for all of these expenses, procurement, there are bigger policies at the university that might dictate what's allowable and not.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so building on that, Kate and I will have the final decision-making authority on what's allowed and what is not. And if anything is in a gray area, we will have to reach out to the office, who has purview over that, as Kate just described. Okay. All right, so our ultimate goal, right? We want to support your project. We want your project to be successful. We must follow university rules. All right, so we will do our best to help you and make it work. Okay. But we are the rule followers in the Office of Research. Okay. Okay. All right, so a few words about InfoReady, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kate for a demonstration. You must use your Montclair Net ID and password. So for those of you on the call who are based at the Bloomfield campus, you must activate and claim your Net ID. Okay, and if you need a link to how to do that, please reach out to me and I can forward you those instructions. Okay, but your Bloomfield email address, right, will not work in InfoReady. Okay, so, and then students, you'll be asked to provide your mentor's name and contact information, and you must use @montclair.edu. All right, so no mail.montclair.edu, just the montclair.edu. Right, and again, the student application has to have all components combined in one document. Okay, and then after you submit, I'm going to share a secret with all of you students on the call. All right, I'm the acting vice provost for research, but I am also a faculty member. I'm going to share a secret about faculty. You must remind us to do stuff. Okay? And if we don't do it, then remind us again, right? Life is complicated. Whatever confronts me when I step outside my office, I will forget whatever it was I just promised to do, right? So help your faculty and remind us to do stuff, right? And if they get annoyed at you, tell them Dr. Brackfeld told me I should remind you and I will take the blame. All right. Okay, so after you upload your document, contact your faculty mentor and tell them I just submitted my materials. Would you please now submit your materials? Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and Kate will now take us to the InfoReady system.
Yes, happy to do so. I just am bringing us here, the guidelines that were emailed out to you have a direct link to InfoReady, but just another way you can find it. Certainly you can search InfoReady at Montclair's website, but you could also go to the Office of Sponsored Programs and see a whole page of info about this program, including the InfoReady login, the guidelines, etc. So I'm going to go into here. And just FYI, you can't be working on your application tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. So sorry about that. So this system is used to manage all sorts of limited submission competitions at the university. So if you just scroll down here, you'll see the one we are talking about. But I believe the guidelines have a direct link right into this application. And here it is. Here are the guidelines. Once again, the very same ones that were emailed to you, as well as that budget template that Dr. Brockfeld spoke about. I will just say it's not an Excel document. It's a Word table that you're going to complete. And then the budget narrative, as Dr. Brockfeld explained. This is in the guidelines itself as it's part of the PDF of the guidelines, but we're giving it to you as a Word document as well, so you might be able to edit it more easily. But of course, it needs to be combined into one PDF and uploaded. So without further ado, you'll want to log in. As Dr. Brockfeld said, everybody will click on this link, Montclair State University login, to log in with your net ID and password. Because I am a system admin, I have a different level of access and view that it'd be more confusing to you if I shared my screen. So I have a fake account that I just logged into. But you're going to just launch into my application. And it's very straightforward. You'll see the asterisk for what's required of you. My name in the system is test user, so there you go. The program name is your what you were studying, your major if you're an undergrad, what your degree is if you're a graduate level student. Obviously, these are just multiple choice. This is to get at what Dr. Brockfeld spoke about earlier in terms of eligibility. So we want you to enter the number of program credits completed as of the date June 25th, when this is due by. And your faculty mentor will sort of confirm this in their attestation. Number of program credits for which you were enrolled in fall of 2024. And then the name and department of the faculty mentor. So we say, you can enter their name, comma, what department they're in. So it can be an abbreviation. We just want to get a sort of sense of what it is in the system. So that is that cover sheet we talked about. This is the cover sheet in InfoReady. That's part of the required documents needed. Your proposal title. Does your project involve the use of animal subjects, human subjects, or biological hazards? This is something, if your project is to be awarded, kind of gets managed at award setup. So we ensure we have IRB approval, IACUC approval. If you're in this space, hopefully you're familiar with that sort of process, and it's something to talk with your faculty mentor about as well. Your total request amount. Again, the max request is $2,000 for an undergrad or $5,000 for a graduate student. If you click into these, there are some help texts. The project period is a little tricky for those who are graduating sort of early, or what I would say is so undergrads must select the 1 year, right? They cannot go over a 1 year. If you're a graduate student, if your project period it goes beyond a year, even if it doesn't go the full 2 years because you're graduating, select the 2-year period. So if it goes over a year, select the 2-year period. This is where you will upload your one PDF, you only have the option to upload one, so it's got to be all here. This, again, is where you will enter your faculty members' contact information. As Dr. Brockfeld said, you must use this account for them. If they're a Bloomfield faculty and still have the Bloomfield or email address, you got to use Montclair. And that's very straightforward. That's just an email address you're going to enter. This is a system option that you can add other email addresses for notifications. So if you wanted to include a personal email that you might check more often, or I would imagine that would be the only thing. You could include your faculty mentor, but that's not the purpose of this. This section is where your faculty mentor will get the notification that they need. This is just if you need to enter another email address. And then finally, a certification statement is required that you are certifying that you understand the information that you're submitting is true, complete, and accurate, that you will take, as Dr. Brockfeld spoke about at the beginning, you will be intellectually involved in this project. You are the primary person involved in this project. So we just want you to certify that. And from there, after all those fields are completed and this is checked, you can submit. You can also start your project and save as a draft. That's another option you might have. And let me just quickly show you, if you choose to do that, how you then figure out where to go. So if you choose to save in a draft, or even after you submit, right, your materials will be located in this applications tab at the top. So this is me running all sorts of drafts and tests in the past, but you'll see your draft applications will be here, and sort of it will be in an accepted status once it's been submitted. So say you've submitted it, right? And you were like, oh, I wish I had saved a final copy of everything. You could go back into here and see my application, see the information you selected, and even PDF the whole thing at the top to save yourself a copy, right? This was the whole application that was submitted. So that's the gist of the system. If anybody encounters any hiccups, please contact me. And again, as Dr. Brockfeld said, once you hit submit, the form gets routed to your faculty mentor. They get an email saying that they have something to do, but as she said, and I'm going to reiterate, contact them outside of the system as well. And faculty on the call, it's a very straightforward process of you receive an email, you click on the link and upload your documents in a very similar manner, and hit submit. So that's the system. And I will stop sharing.
Apologies, I was on mute. Okay, so just a few reminders about due dates, and then what happens next after you submit your application. Okay, so again, students, your pieces are due by Tuesday, June 25th, by close of business, so 5 p.m. Right? Inside Info Ready, your application package will then route to the faculty mentors for their components. And faculty, you have until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, June 30th, to do your part. Okay, so once we receive the complete application with both the student and the faculty mentor components, It will be screened for basic eligibility. So we're going to go through and make sure that the faculty attestations all clicked, yes, my student meets the eligibility requirements, they're in good standing. And then eligible applications will go to the student RSCA Proposal Review Committee. All right, so again, this is a committee of your fellow students who will be reviewing and evaluating these applications and making recommendations on which projects should be funded. And that will take place during the summer. And so we've invited applications for the committee that has the same due date, June 25th. Right, and so, oops, my mistake. Sorry. So we've invited applications for the committee. We anticipate inviting the committee in early July. The size of the committee will be dictated in part by how many proposals we receive. And again, this is brand new. I don't know what the response will be. If we receive an extraordinary number of applications, we will need a large committee to share the workload. And so I don't have, a detail for you at this moment in time of like how many committee members are there. Okay, and we anticipate then review will take place over the summer and that we will notify you in early to mid-September of the outcome of your proposals. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, and we've got plenty of time for questions. If anyone has questions about the program or the process. Okay, yes, Pascal.
Do you know how much money you have for this, or how many you plan to accept?
I'm hoping to fund between 15 and 20 projects.
All right, thanks.
All right, so again, first time we're doing this. I would like this to become a twice a year activity. And so depending on, again, on the number of proposals we receive, I may hold some of the funds in reserve so that we can have another call for applications at the end of the fall semester. All right, so recognizing that students sort of start their programs at different points in time, we'd like to structure it so that there's plenty of opportunity, right, to submit the application. But yeah, at the moment, I'm thinking 15 to 20. That number may change. That number may go up pending the outcome of the budget call process and what I've requested for fiscal year 25. And so the number that I'm quoting now is assuming that my budget stays unchanged from what it is right now. But I've asked to increase this program. Okay, yes, Pascal.
You said in the student biographical sketch that it could be a CV. So I'm format because there's sort of like the personal statement format that's a little more narrative. Are you expecting something that's basically just CV format?
So at this point in time, we're not specifying the
Okay.
format. You can use the format that's appropriate to your discipline.
All right.
In the future, we may require a standardized format, but this year, yeah, so just 2 pages maximum is the only constraint. Okay, yes, Libby.
Hi, I just want to follow up on one thing you said, and I would really appreciate if it would become a 2-year thing, because most of our master students would not be eligible because they don't have 9 credits yet, unless you count the credits they're taking right now in the summer, which I assume you don't, because it needs to be completed for them to have a GPA.
Correct.
So basically, most of them, by the time they're applying, they're already on their way out, so they don't have time to utilize the funds.
Yeah.
The question I wanted to ask, what about, so coursework that the data is curated and the assignment is very strict is not eligible. What about course that just defines to use methods learned in the course and it's completely student-led? The student finds the data, the student decides on the methods, and then the application would be mostly to extend this project and make it so that it would go to a submission to a conference or participation, and the funds will support that. Is that a valid submission?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding correctly, right, the student's taking a research methods course where they are required to design an original project?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, that's eligible, again, provided that what they're doing is not covered under a university or your department's instructional budget.
Okay.
And we
thank you.
can speak individually about the specifics of what you have in mind to evaluate that. I guess my own background from the College of Science and Mathematics, I'll give an example. You know, if a student, you know, is receiving financial support from the department, you know, to buy materials and supplies for their project, right, then this program won't, you know, double dip in that regard.
So I'll give an example from the College of Computer Science and Mathematics too. In the data mining course, they need to find their own data and do a data mining analysis. And sometimes the projects are half-baked for a submission. So it would be extending that, being able to attend a conference, which I don't think is covered by the department. And computer science conferences are extremely expensive. So
Okay, so
okay.
Let me follow up a little bit on that. So applying to this program to broaden the scope of their class work, potentially leading up to their capstone activity. Okay, so in my opinion, yes, you know, that is
Okay,
eligible.
great.
And as we evaluate the proposals and we look at the budgets, if there's anything that Kate has questions about or I have questions about, we will reach out to you, you know, the faculty mentor, to make sure we understand the appropriate allocation, you know, between this program and the department, you know, in cases, you know, that may be sort of in one of those unanticipated what if scenarios. Okay, students on the call, is there anything that we can help clarify for you about what you're being asked to do, what the expectations are? Okay, how to assemble and submit your proposal?
Sorry, I'm faculty, but my student is also here. So for the graduate students, if I have a master's student applying, they're going into their second year, so the project will be maximum 1 year. I know that the funding for that is up to 2 years and up to 5,000. Is that like 2,500 per year? Or if we were to ask for 3,000 for 1 year, is that within the scope of what would be awarded to a graduate student?
Yes. All right. So if your student will only be here for, you know, 1 semester or 1 year, just make sure that's addressed in the student's application. So as part of the narrative, we're asking for a timetable, right? So how do you envision this project, you know, playing out? What will be done when? So explain the timeline. And then I recommend that you, as the faculty mentor, sort of reiterate that in your letter. Now, as far as the budget goes, it can be 2,500 per year. It can be 5,000 in 1 year. You know, we'll defer to you as long as it's explained in the budget narrative, you know, how the budget is being used to support the project.
And is it possible that we're awarded less than we request in our budget? So, you know, if we're asking for supplies and travel, and we could potentially be awarded for supplies only or something like that?
Yes, that is possible.
Okay, so better to just budget to ask for like travel funds and things like that if we can, if it's within the scope of the total amount.
Right. So I always recommend, you know, budget for what you genuinely need and make sure that need is explained in the proposal. And so I don't want people to worry about, oh, I have to game the system and ask for more because I might get less, right? Just write a convincing proposal that explains what you genuinely need. So scenarios where a proposal, may be awarded less than what was asked for is if we get, again, a very, very high response and we're trying to, share resources, we may recommend partial awards to support, as many projects as we can. But I'm also cognizant, I don't want to give you a partial award that makes it impossible to do the project because some critical piece, right, can't be done and that, collapses everything else. And so we're really going to rely on the proposal and the budget narrative, right, to understand, right, how the project needs to be supported.
Thank you.
I want to ask a question on behalf of my students who couldn't be here. I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. So she was hoping that part of the budget could go towards on-campus housing. Would that be only under salary, or can it be a different budget component?
Okay, I'm going to need to give that some thought, and I'd like some time for Kate and I to chat about that. I don't think I can give a definitive answer at the moment. I understand the motivation for the question. We'll need to talk about, I guess, the mechanism and again, yeah, university rules. Okay. All right. So we've got some time remaining. Are there other questions, or I can also say a few words about the proposal review committee if folks are interested in hearing about that. Okay. All right. So at the beginning of our webinar, I described this program as student-led and student-owned. All right. So let me say a few words about student-owned. All right. So one of my goals is ulterior motives. Some of you have heard me say, is I want to build research leadership skills within our students. I want them to get the experience of, not only, considering, their own individual project, but thinking more broadly about research and scholarship and creative activities taking place on campus and the kinds of activities they may be tapped for if they pursue a career in either academia or, in the nonprofit world. And to get some experience evaluating other people's projects and other people's budgets. All right, so student-owned means we're going to pilot, and again, first time we've ever done this, a student committee to evaluate proposals. All right, so there are stricter eligibility requirements for this committee. Okay, so the committee is restricted to master's students who have completed more than 50% of their program, and doctoral students who have advanced to candidacy. Okay, undergraduates are not eligible for the proposal review committee. Okay, and that's a professional judgment call on my part. I want graduate students who I feel have both the research and disciplinary maturity and the personal and professional maturity to undertake this responsibility. Right. And I do consider this a very serious responsibility, right? You're going to be handling confidential, sensitive materials and intellectual property, right, of students and faculty on campus, and you're going to be making decisions about some pretty substantial amounts of money. Okay, and so those are the reasons for those eligibility requirements. The composition and the size of the committee, right, as I alluded to before, will depend in part on the proposal response that we get. Right. So how many people do I need to share this workload? Right. And then what are the disciplinary expertise needed to properly evaluate these proposals? Right. So if we get a huge response, for example, from the Department of Psychology, then I'm going to need people with that disciplinary expertise to properly evaluate these proposals. Right now, I want to be inclusive. I hope that we get applications from every college and school and all across the campus. Okay, all right. But we will not follow the former university research committee model of just one representative from every college and school, right? I want to make sure we have the right disciplinary expertise at the table for the proposals we receive. Okay. And so Kate and I are working together. We are going to design a training program for the committee members. Okay, and so before they read anyone's proposals, we'll be going through exercises and talking about things like conflict of interest, right? And recognizing one's own conflicts of interest, how it's completely inappropriate to review a proposal by your lab mate, right? Okay, or your friend, or a relative. We'll be talking about maintaining confidentiality in perpetuity of everything they read and everything that's discussed. We'll be talking about recognizing implicit bias. And then strategies if you are tasked with reading a proposal that's outside your comfort zone. All right, so hypothetically, let's say that you're a chemist and you are asked to review something submitted by a student in the College of the Arts. How are you going to approach that? Okay. All right, and so my own personal experience with outside funding agencies will come into play. I envision that we will follow the model in which members of the committee will be assigned a docket of proposals. So we use the expressions primary reader, right, secondary reader, scribe, where the disciplinary experts are going to handle the proposals in their fields as the primary reader. There will be secondary readers as well, reading the proposal and offering their comments. The secondaries may be in related, but not exactly in that field, okay, to broaden the perspective. And also speak to things like readability. Was it presented clearly, and understandably to a non-specialist? Do I understand what they're trying to do and why it's important? And then we'll have scribes who are taking notes and recording the conversations and documenting the discussion so that we can then provide you and your student with what we refer to as a panel summary. All right, so a summary of the discussions, the strengths and weaknesses that the committee perceived, right, and the basis for the funding recommendation. Okay, and that process will take place during July, August, and our ultimate goal, right, is to notify you of decisions in early September, right, and then we have some internal tasks that we need to do, right, to sort of set up budgets, and we want to get the projects launched as early as possible, right, so we're tentatively saying beginning of October. If we're able, to start it sooner, we absolutely will. And coming back to the earlier discussion of having this competition twice a year, the timeline that we're on right now, this likely will not be the regular recurring timeline, right? We rolled it out now because now is when we had the permission to roll it out. But going forward, we will revisit when we make the announcement, the call for applications, when we seat the committee, again, with the ultimate goal of trying to space it out twice a year.
Dr. Brockfeld, I'm sorry I stole the screen, but I did just want to return to the Office of Sponsored Programs Internal Words website just to say, we were looking here, but the information on the proposal review committee that you were just describing is here. The call for applications was just announced a couple weeks ago. So materials on that for faculty and students, if you want to review, are here. And just one other thing, we're now 1 minute over, but I did just want to point out on this page, I'm going to scroll to the bottom. We're having a couple open lab Zoom sessions, Tuesday, June 18th from 9 to 10 and Monday, June 24th. If there's kind of last minute questions that you have with your proposal and just want to drop in during that time period to ask them. So the link is right there for those open labs. Sorry, Dr. Brockfeld.
Oh, no worries. Yep. Okay. All right. And okay. All right. And yep. All right. So the QR code is a link to the page that Kate just showed you. All right. So yes, please join us for the open labs. You're also welcome to reach out at any time as questions arise. And again, I encourage you to reach out if you have specific what if scenarios, questions about project eligibility, student eligibility. We're happy to hear from you. Okay, and again, it is my greatest hope that I'll be able to announce other new entities under the internal awards program, as soon as our processes allow. All right, so there's a question in the chat. Is being on the proposal review committee compensated? Yes. Right, and so student members of the proposal review committee, the compensation is $500 to be placed towards either conference travel or other professional development activity that you identify, with the caveat that it must be completed before June 30th, 2025. Right, because the university's budget operates on a one fiscal year timeframe. Okay, other questions? Okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you all for making time to join us this morning. I appreciate your interest in the program. I appreciate you being here. Please spread the word. Please share what you learned with your colleagues, your fellow students. I'm hoping that this will be a program that's of interest broadly. I hope we get a great response, much like it does in the external funding world, right? The more proposals you have, the more ammunition it gives me to say we need more money, right, to fund this program. And so I'm hoping for a great response. All right, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.